So we'll just start. Loosen. I can see you. Yeah, that's good. Okay, just play with the head a little bit, kind of looking up, looking down. And so you can kind of stretch a little bit, open the neck out, looking down to the ground. And then just go down to the shoulders a little bit, just play a little bit with the shoulders, dropping them down, bringing them up, maybe circling a little bit. Shaking them out. Into the front and back. Working the chest. Just start to drop the body down, just a little bit. Right, the hands down. Imagine a little bit like the chest gets pulled down to the ground, like there's a string attached to the chest, going to drop down. And we're rising up. Down. Back. Back. Okay, into side to side. Very big, so you kind of really roll out the foot as well. Ooh, someone else. Second. That's good. Also play with this one a little bit, where you kind of the legs kind of coming down. It's a little bit like the legs are quite stiff. So, no, it's fine. So just play a little bit like this. This actually goes to a sumo exercise, just like this. So, you know, where you just kind of play a little bit with the hip. That's it. And what this does by kind of a little bit of tension in the leg, or holding the leg a little bit, just really makes it clear the transfer of the weight. You can feel that, hopefully feel the upper body kind of swinging onto the leg. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's it. And then just make it a little bit more flexible, and kind of placing the leg, placing the weight, and then opening the leg out. Placing the weight, opening the leg. Placing the leg, opening. Then the whole body's going to go around through the movement this way. And then just start to, this is not the sumo thing, but just start to play with, you're basically going to roll through the hip a little bit. So you've got this, opening the leg out, this left, opening the leg out. And just play with alternating, kind of placing the weight in the feet. So placing, adjusting the weight, opening. And you can do this in lots of different ways. Just play with a little bit of the hips, the legs. And this basically this sideways movement of the body. Side, side, side. And once you catch it, like you can start to make a little bit of fluid. So it's got an kind of fluid quality. And just let the arms kind of fold up in it. Let the whole body go with the breath. So nice growth in the hips out. Start to now bring the hands down a little bit to the ground. So you're going to kind of touch the ground, you come down, and then open through. And again, this is the kind of feeling, touching the ground. Don't put so much weight on. And then you're just going to go to this exercise. So it's like the hands are now stuck to the floor. You're going to kind of drag them across. It's like I'm kind of wiping the floor. A little bit like the Japanese cleaning method, but it's kind of side to side. Imagine the feet kind of knee to the ground and just adjusting the weight. Yes. It's very fluid. And the weight doesn't stop, so you're not kind of stretching. Just opening the body up a little bit. That's great. Good, and do the same thing. This is really like the Japanese cleaning. You have the hands like this. This is some. If you've got a soft floor, you've got a carpet, it might be difficult. But just imagine you kind of bring the hands out and then draw them back to the body. Bring hands out, draw them back. Now, as much as you can for this one to be in a way quite good for the body. What I don't want to do is pull the hips forward in this case, and then try and draw them back. Now, you'll find this is really difficult to do so. What I want to do is so that the hips are almost kind of static. And then draw the hands forward, and then pull them back into the body. So you've got a really strong base in the legs. You will feel the legs, in a way, they do more by being static. Because they've got to really support the movement out. And then just draw it back. And do this very slow. Actually, slow is better, but just imagine the hands coming out, reaching out. Reach out, sink into the hips, and then draw them back. And just keep this kind of low, quite low posture in the body. Reach the hands out, come back. Reach the hands out, come back. And again, once you get it, just do a little bit of fluid, so it's as if the fingertips just scrape the floor and then draw back. Scrape the floor, draw back. You'll feel probably that the top of the thigh will start to kind of burn, maybe. That's it. And just kind of fluidly move through, kind of scraping fingers forward, pulling them back. That's it. Good. Nice, nice, nice. As much as you can, imagine the spine extending through the movement. Imagine the spine's going to extend out. So what I want you to do now is the same. It's a little bit more difficult. You've got the same base, and then the hands are basically off the ground. So the tendency now is to go like this, but you'll fall over forward, so then the body will try and catch itself. So get the sense that the legs are now stable. You're just going to kind of do this. And what I want you to really picture is like length. If you look at my back here, there's really a sense of length through it. It's almost kind of flat, the back. And then what I want you to do is like this. Hands come up straight and then drop them to the ground. And do this quite loose with the hands. So there's a brief moment if I for me that the fingers just touch the ground here. But then I'm swinging them up, and then I drop them down. And just let them drop. And then engage. And then drop. And then engage. Straighten, lengthen, and then drop. Straighten, lengthen, lift the hands up, and then drop. Let's give this a try. That's it. That's it. It's really good. Imagine the skull, the back of the skull is part of the lengthening as well. So imagine you've drawn a line from the spine to the head, all the way through the back of the head is a sense of lengthening. As if you kind of create one line. If you like, just hold very briefly at the top with the hands. This position is pretty hard for the body to hold, so you will basically need to switch on the lower body, the lower back. You hold this position and just drop it. And hopefully you can feel the arms actually start to loosen through the movement. You will probably feel the lower body starts to either tremble or start to burn, but this is actually a good, good position. That's it. Good. Nice. Good. Okay, good. We go to the next one. Just going into a kind of lunge position. This is like this. It's like a short lunge, so it's not too wide that I need to raise the back heel. So it's a kind of short, it's like a one-step lunge. Just like this. All you want to do now is just you can have the fingertips together, or you can do the kind of palms up, or you can have them kind of clasped. But just imagine a kind of contact with the hands. I'm just going to stretch up. This way right up, and again, imagine a length through the whole body here. And in this case, what I want you to focus on is the length through the lower back, through the back leg, and stretching up. And again, just imagine a kind of length through the whole body. Nice deep breaths as you do it, and you can try and expand the rib cage out. So imagine a big balloon in the chest. Actually, two big balloons, but just imagine it opening and expanding them. And just feel this kind of real length through the whole body. This is a very simple movement. It's actually quite difficult for the body to hold. If I do it in a way with full length, pretty difficult. Okay. Now what I want you to do is just over to your, if you've got the right leg forward, start to lean the body away to the right. Just lengthen again through the back leg. Imagine a kind of string all the way through the body. Good. Just slightly lean the body over, just to one side. And this way, just that way. Now just feel what that does, where the upper body goes over. Feel what happens in the hips. So the hips will probably start to do this. They'll start to basically close to the center. So basically, if the body comes out, the center's going to try and structure itself so that it doesn't collapse. So you'll probably feel the center, the hips start to move in a way towards the center. And then just come back to the center with the hands, with the body. What I want you to do now is the same, but stretch the body forward. So with the hip, you're going to keep the same sense of length, and you're going to just do this. It's just this. Keep that back foot down again, and just come to this position. So you're going to stretch the hands out into this position. Now the key part of this one is don't bring the knee forward this way, because if I do this, I stop the lengthening in the back, from the back, and I basically fall into the front leg. And then I'm just going into the quads. Yeah. So what I need to do is keep the knee back. So that the basic rule is kind of keep the knee back of the heel. If it's just in line with the heel, it's okay, but if you can get it further back, even better. So stretch the body forward, here, like this. And again, keep this kind of chest up, chin back, in a way, so it's like this. Stretch the body out, forward, and as much as you can, tilt it forward. If you can get really extreme hip flexion here, I can get to this position. There. And again, you'll probably feel the lower body starts to tremble. This is quite good. Lower back, better. And then what I want you to do is just maybe come back a little bit into the center. And then you're going to do the same direction. You're going to twist away towards the right leg. That's it. And just, you can do this a few ways. I can do this, like this, kind of pulse it, or I can just hold the position. You might feel now the back leg wants to reach out, or the back heel starts to reach out, which is good. And then just basically enter into a spiral with the body. That's it. You probably feel the front leg starts to tremble a lot. Minus. And then come back to center. And then just coming back to this position. Just here, opening the chest out, lengthen through the body. My posture's a bit wide, and then just let the back heel settle down. Release the arms, release the leg into here, and then we just do a similar to the other leg. So just get comfortable in the lunge, a kind of short lunge. Just here, and then again, just lengthen up. Imagine you're pressing the heels into the ground, so the toes can actually even come up if you put the weight into the heel. Just that, and just imagine again, just creating length through the whole body, and especially now, use the breath to open the ribcage like this. So really use the breath to extend the body, and as you breathe out, don't lose the length. Keep the breath long, keep the body long in the out. Okay, and then we do the same, just draw the hips forward, forward, forward. Just flexing the hip forward. And then what I want to do is imagine you're just reaching the arms out. So it's as if the hips and the hands form one line through the whole body. And you'll feel the legs start to tremble probably. Hold it. Basically get the hands up as high as you can for the shoulders. And I'm always trying to keep the shoulders down. Nice deep breath. Expand through the ribcage. Feel the effect of the in-breath on the shoulders as well. Should expand, open. Drop the hands a little bit. And then you're going to spiral over to your left side if the left foot's forward. Again, as much as you can, keep the heel down. But as you increase the spiral away, you can also bring the heel back up, bring the heel up. The main thing is that I'm not carrying the body over into the front foot. Keep the weight back on the heels. Just hold it. Or pulse it if you like. Depends on you feel. Again, keep the breath long. Feel the breath expand into the body again. And just come back. And we didn't do the other one, so what I want you to do is stretch up. Bring the back heel down again. And then just lean the body over to the left side. Lengthen through the spine. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Imagine both sides of the body are lengthening, but you will feel more in the stretching side. Just a little bit tilt. Hold. Keep the breath going. Back to the center. Drop through the body. Just bring the arms back a little bit. Open the chest out. Nice deep breath. Release the arms and then release the feet. Okay. And just shake the arms out. Shake the legs. We're just going to do one more. This is now, you're going to go really wide with the legs. Like this, and you're going to drop the weight down. And imagine you're not only dropping the weight down, but you're falling, you're kind of pushing the body back. So it's a little bit like I'm falling back with the body. You get this kind of.
Yeah.
Here's the knees again. So what I don't want to happen is this with the knees, is forward. I want you to keep the knees back of the heel like this. And you see my butt starts to come out. Starts to come out. Starts to come out. And I want you to do the same thing. Just for now, keep the arms back like this. And you're going to externally rotate the thumbs like this. And imagine you're pulling the chest up and you're keeping the chin back. So again, creating length through the spine. Push the hips back, sink down lower. And again, deep breaths. That's good. Feel a little bit like you're falling backwards. So if you feel like you've done a little bit off balance to the back, this is good. And again, you're probably feel the legs start to tremble. That's good. Okay, and then you're going to bring the hands to the chest, just like this. You're going to keep the length, and then all I want you to do is flex the hip. These are called good morning, so they're called good morning hip stretches. So you come up, and then just the hip. So keep the length through the spine. Again, chest out, chin back. And we just go about 8 or 10. Just down. And again, keep the breath nice and big. Expanding, and just feel that the hips can really flex. Keep the knees back as much as you can. Legs probably start to tremble right now. Much more. Yes, 2 more. Okay, and then as you do the last one, just release again the hands to the ground. Drop the hips back even more, so the hips are going lower to the ground. The knees go a little bit further back. And keep the breath long. And this is really where you feel like someone's pulling the hips back, stretching through the hand. Breath, expand the ribcage. One more breath. And then what you do is just bring the hands towards the shins. And just imagine again, you're going to sink the hips even more, and even more length through the spine, through the body. Come back to this position. Hands back, thumbs rotated out. Imagine the hips now, they're going to start to really shape, really draw everything towards the center. So if you can imagine everything drawing in like this. So you'll feel the hips, the feet start to squeeze, sweating, everything's shaking. Pull the chest up, lengthen the spine, and just release it. Use it and then just go. And the feet, you feel like this. You really feel the lower back. This is pretty good. It's actually good because it's really training the body to, in a way, anchor the body into the lower back and the legs. You feel a lot in the front of the body. This is kind of not so great, but if you feel the back, and the back of the spine, good stuff. Just come back into kind of movement, fluid. This. And then just go into a rotation. So you probably feel the spine now below. Pretty aware of the back, the spine, the legs. Just let it kind of settle down. Let the arms follow. That's it. And I really feel the hips can drop into the ground so that they're basically constantly drop down. So you've got the hips drop, but they're also flexing as well. So what I don't do this is kind of this, where the hips are kind of, imagine in a way it's like the hips are actually static. So even though they're moving, imagine they're not kind of moving so much in space, but they're moving. The hips are flexing, but they're not really moving in a way. If that makes any sense. That's it. Good. And then we just go to this one, just to kind of activate the arms a little bit, just here, going to the shoulder. And we'll go straight away into a kind of fluid move. So you know this. So just going to go bump, just going to swing, swing. And even though the focus is a little bit on the front hand, naturally, just let the back hand also be included. So really feel what's happening in the back of the hand, in the back. Okay. And then really activate the arms. Keep the arms kind of here, and just imagine you can swing the arms like this. Doing the same movement of the hip, a little bit more fluid, a bit more dynamic, and then just start with a figure of 8, like this. Maybe just one side, but if you like, you can go to both. Just again, just feel the hips really flexing. At the same time, the upper body just sitting on the body, sitting on the hip. So start to pass the arm out a little bit more to the front, also a little bit to the back. That's it. A little bit over and under, a little bit like you're in a cricket overall. And the more you feel the arm, or the more you're active with the arm, probably the more you'll feel the body doing these kind of things, or wanting to do these kind of things. So just try and feel more and more you can release again down, and really allow the hip to directly affect the hand, with the upper body being long and relaxed, but not kind of swaying the upper body. Try body just. And then just come fully into this kind of motion where you're basically like a kind of two slaps. And really feel the upper, feel the shoulder can really release. If I feel the shoulder can release, then basically the arm goes by itself. It kind of carries over and then it goes, drops down. It goes here and then drops down. Yeah. That's good. Nice. Nice. And then just go to the other side if you're using one hand. And again, just work your way into it. And feel it, especially this hip is connecting to the hand. Really feel the motion of this hand tied to the hip. And obviously it's flexible, so they move together. That's it. And again, just watch for the body now, even though it's in the simple move, the body doing, the upper body doing this. Now, if you think about it, if the hips are, this is one way to use the body. In a way, the hips are very stable, and I can sway the upper body in this way. But think in this case, the upper body is just long, and it's just resting on the hips. And then when I'm basically move the body from the hip. And the upper body moves, but it doesn't kind of, in a way, sway. So just my fingers. Yeah, and then again, just start to increase it, Clip the back a little bit, from increase it, start to raise the hand a little bit. So raise. That's it. Start to kind of come over. And then just start to kind of carry it over. Just kind of slapping. And again, just try and really release the shoulder as much as you can. Good. And then just bring both hands into it. Move them however you like. And again, you can go back to this exercise like this. To this. Just feel the arms are basically fluidly connected to that hip. That's good. And the last one, just to kind of wake the body up a little bit, you go like this. So I'm going to catch it. And just imagine you basically have to put, it's a strange thing, you've got to put your mind in the hand, and I've got to tell the hand go to the shoulder. But I don't, in this case, hand, shoulder. So I don't let the hand decide. So in a way, I'm trying to talk with the hip directly to the hand. And I've got to go hand to shoulder. From the hip, hand, go to the shoulder. Right. But I can't do it. In this case, I can do hand, shoulder, shoulder. But just feel that you can, in a way, you're controlling the hand through the hip. Shoulder. 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 And just do a few on each side. Keep the connection on both sides. Good. 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 Yeah. Okay, so imagine you get both sides. You catch both sides. Bam. This is basically the same exercise as this one we did before, but it's now really active. Imagine you can pass the hand like that, so you can go to the hip. But it's got much more of a sitting back. So the other one before is like a kind of swing. This, and then this one's got this sense of I'm going to kind of put this away. this one, it's actually an interesting thing that the more active I get in this movement, the more relaxed the body is, the more calm the movement. And it's like the more, what you want to do is be more efficient in the movement. So if you think about it in terms of like a striking motion like this, like a ski, you spend a lot of time like with a big movement and big body move, making all the connections kind of clear. And then eventually you just work towards something which is like done, very direct and very efficient. You've got to spend a long time in these kind of exercises to get the kind of coordination, get the kind of pattern of the movement. And then from here, what I want you to do is just a kind of direct movement. And I feel the body hardly does anything. But if I'm not really doing it, but if I can get the hip to actually fire the hand, then the body doesn't need to really move. So the body doesn't need to do all these kind of complex actions to get the hand to go, because you're basically connecting the hip. And then it will feel like the body does very much less than before. So it's a bit like our system when we go from Kihon, very big movements, very clear. And then eventually just work towards something which is, well, it just happens there. So this is the way I think any system works. And you basically go up and down the levels like this. It's the same with anything with painting. You start really complex, you learn all the rules, you learn it, and then eventually you just go to a very free kind of very efficient. So just look for this now. It's like this. It's a little bit like we were doing the sword work yesterday. It's a bit like I need to surprise myself. So it's like, go. The hand just goes. I don't really think it. It's just a kind of, boom, it goes. Kind of a strange feeling. Okay, good. So take a bokken. It's very similar. Just start with the hips again. Just start with the palm. Maybe a little bit wider, depending on the body. Just go to this one straight away. Go to the back, and then just come straight away into a focus. And then release it up. Straight into a focus. Release it. Focus. It's basically just the first suburu. Shoulder width apart. And try and use all this kind of settling grounding. Oh, at the moment, my foot's not so grounded, so it's like this. And really feel the hip one impact into the ground. And then I pass it through into the sword. Really try and get this kind of elastic quality. Direct kind of communication into the sword from the hip. That's it. Nice. Okay, and there's a really clear, not really a technique, but a clear way of using the sword like this to make this structure quite clear. So what I want to do is just raise the sword up like this. If you notice when you do this, you'll feel the body will if I'm just naturally relaxed, the body will sink down. So if I do, from here, if I do this, I feel the body go down, settle down. Now, if I'm not really relaxed and I'm lifting with the arms, this will happen. I'll kind of come up into this position. And if I really exaggerate that, what's happening is this. I'm coming up into the toes and I'm pulling the body out of the ground. So try not to do this naturally. So try not to do this unnaturally, which means don't push down with the body to raise. Just allow, as I intend to raise the sword, the body naturally drains back and down, and then sink it. So just to get used to it, just for the raise, and this feeling as the hands raise up, the sword raises up, the body drains down. If you think about the best kind of analogy I can think is like if you hold the arm up, all the blood, all the feeling starts to drain down naturally. So if you hold something up, it will want to drop down. So it's as kind of natural the way things work on this planet. Everything drops down. So it's basically allowing gravity to act on the body. So it's like this. And if I go against that natural principle, I go into tension. And I can't really hold tension so long, so I want to drop down. Just try and get a feel for it. It's a very simple exercise. But it just makes the distinction really, really good. And if it feels like you're doing nothing, that's a good thing. So if it feels like, oh, what is it? Oh, this is stupid. Oh, what is that? Oh, it's probably a good thing. If you feel tension through the body, this is probably better. The best way to do this is with a heavier and heavier object. So I do this, I can do it very light, and then I get a heavier object, and then I get a heavier object, heavier, you can kind of work a little bit with it. Yeah, exactly. That's it. Good. Now, I'm going to take the exercise further because if you think about it, this is basically a representation of the rays through the body. So I can do like this, or I can do like this. The body's actually, something's actually sinking down through the body. So the other thing we've got to the other thing you can replicate is the cut and the dropping of the hips into the ground. So I want you to do the same thing, raise up like this. And then what I want to do is sink the hips down like this and this. So you raise up, sink the hips down. Now, there's a difference in this because what I'm doing is the hips are coming from a natural position and then engaging. So it looks like the hips are doing this. But in a way, you're coming from a natural position here and then engaging. Coming back to the natural position and then engaging. So just get a feel for this, where you're going to engage the hips this way. And the movement is down, mostly in this kind of position. The movement of the hip is just flexing down. And you can make it quite small, you can make it quite big, depending on how you feel it. Okay, good. And this is the challenge of the weapon, is to again, I said yesterday, is to engage the body into the movement and not lose the balance, especially to the front. So watch this, I go here, I have the back, and then I engage the hip, and this happens. So the body goes into falling forward. So see if you can basically get this position. Flex the hip in a way where I just feel like I drop into the center of the body. So if I have the sword like this, it goes like this, straight down. But it doesn't go in this case kind of forward, like this, where I basically fall over. So, and then I'm basically using the sword as a support. But just feel that you get this position and then you drop, engage the hip this way, and then the feeling's like this. Boom. Like this. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Good. That's it. Good. Now, the other challenge of that is that I need to do this with extension now. So this is the problem with it. The problem with extension is I mistake extension for stretching forward, and then this happens again. I get pulled out by the arm. So have the sense that you're basically going from this position, like this, just to this position. So I'm basically doing this. What I'm not doing now is stretching the arms out or pushing the arms out. All I'm thinking about is expanding the arms out. So I'm thinking of the joint in contraction, like this, and then I'm thinking of just opening the joint out. So I'm focused much more in this case on the elbow. So I'm not actually focused in this case in the hand, like this, but I'm focused on in a way as I come down. You can do the same thing, drop the hip, engage, and then expand. So it's a bit more like pressure out or expanding against the balloon than it is pushing out like this. So you've got that position and then engage the hip, drop, and then see if you can find the expansion out. Which basically means the sword's going away from the body now, but I need the feeling to enter the ground, boom, straight at the feet. Let's give this a try. And just play a little bit. You'll feel the body go into tension, go into pushing with the arms, what you're trying to do. And the key thing is just to listen to the body. Good. Even though it's a very subtle movement, it should feel quite dynamic in the body. So it's interesting, these exercises, one of two things will happen. Because it's maybe a new exercise, maybe you've not done it before. The body either goes back to old habits or sticks to the habits that we've got because it's quite similar to the cut. So I will find with this one, if my cut is like something like this, when I do this exercise, I will do this as well. So I'll start to stick the butt out. The other option I've got is that I can use the exercise because it's fresh, because it's new. I can use it to explore the body in different ways. So
one of the problems with habit or with form training is I build habits into the body. And if they're effective habits, that's good. But if they're non-functional habits, this is bad. They're basically you're going to destroy the body over time. So what I want to do in this case is really explore the exercise as if it's a kind of different thing. So in a way, think about sword work and all these kind of things, but also just think about how do I drop the body, engage the hip, and put the stick forward. So I'm not really even thinking like it's the sword. I'm just thinking about how do I settle the hips and have the arms extended out. This is why it's useful to do things with like everyday objects like trays and balls, stones, all these kind of things, because they get you out of the mindset of doing a form training in the dojo. Just do a little bit. Okay, and then we'll just switch the exercise. Very little change. You're just going to go to this position. So clearly the sword work and this kind of position with the hips is exactly the same. Just puts the hands in a different position. But just do the same kind of thing. So you're going to raise up, and then just really again, hips engage, and then you bring the hands out. And I want to feel really like the hands hit the hips. So that it's like the hip level and the hand level. And I feel that the hand just stops by the hips. So just play a little bit with the sword. And I really want to feel that the sword supported from below. Like this. I'm not really even holding the sword. Just let it settle into the hand. So raise it up. Engage hip, bang, drop down. That's it. Good. And keep this idea of kind of engaging the movement forward. So the more I can kind of engage the hip, the more I can find the extension. That makes sense. May I explain it like this? It's a bit of a feeling. I want to engage in it. It's like I have a forward potential, but I don't pull the body forward. So what I can do in this exercise again is kind of lazy. It's like this. So the body stays basically in a very relaxed mode, and I don't really extend out. I just kind of have the hands out. But really think that in this case, you're going to go from here and then really feel that something presses out. Now, the risk in this is that the more I do out, the more I lose the balance. So the body will naturally start to kind of draw back. But really feel that you're actually engaging in a movement that's active. I really feel like I'm actually engaging forward into an encounter or something. So feel that it's actually an active move, which in a way requires a kind of energetic bang, move out. Imagine someone's coming towards you into your space and you're trying to stop them. So it's a bit like I would do like this, no. But I wouldn't do in a way I wouldn't do like, no. So in this case, the extension, the connection it's got to feel where I'm kind of expanding into my own space and totally expanding my feeling out. So it's got this kind of quality like, no, this. So I should feel that my whole sphere, right, is full. There's no kind of space. So everything's kind of full and open. It's kind of true. You said a kind of active, right? Yeah, that's it. Good, and then do the same thing. You just drop the sword. This is where the sword work relates to the koku. So the sword work like this, and the sword work like this, and then the sword work like this, or the hand work like this. This is where it basically opens out to koku work. So again, the same thing. Keep the shoulder width apart. You can raise up like this, and then what I want to do more now is really spiral the hips out. So you're going to do this motion. Now it's natural in this case for me to do this fluidly. So in the first few, just do it like this. And then just go, again, hip engage, expand the hands out, and then draw it back, expand it out. And again, really make a distinction between pushing the arm out, like this, or pushing the hand out, and just expanding through the joint system. It's like you've got a water hose. This is the old classic key Aikido, but you've got a water hose, and then you turn the water, there's no water, and then the hose will fill. And the water will start to kind of gush out of the hand. So it's got this kind of expanding feeling. But the key in this is that the body's the same thing as before. So the hips, the body dropping, the feeling's the same. You just open out the hand a little bit. There we go. That's it. Yeah, good. Okay, now how this where you will in a way where you will leave sword work behind in a maybe in a negative way is if I use the hands like this. So if I do these kind of motion, it's not impossible to find the sword in this, but in this case, think really about the Japanese body, so that the hand blade. Really think about this part of the hand staying forward. So this is how I basically keep the sword basically alive. The moment I do that with the hand, I lose the sword. And I lose the feeling of the sword, importantly. So I've got the sword, and then the moment I do that, I lose the sword. So in this case, what you do is like this. So I want it's like I'm presenting the blade of the hand like this. And this is forward. But try and avoid doing this or something like that. Remember that. This is like a push, and this is koku. Push, koku. Push, koku. There needs something extra in the hand to do it. And again, you can just experiment with it. You'll feel a total difference between a hand like this, pushing out, and a hand like this, fully engaged. Totally different feeling. Good. Okay, good. Okay, so just come back to the sword a little bit. I'm going to go to some kind of handwork. So again, just come back to this position. Again, just work with the first degree coming down, and then just straight away coming to a ski this way. So if you feel these kind of two positions, you've got this, again, hips engaged, and you've got this. Hips engaged into the kind of koku work. So just a little bit with this, come into the back. Really, again, engage the hip. Engage the hip, right. And then here, fully engage the whole body. Forward, like this. And just play a little bit with this. Back. Okay, so this is an interesting move for the hip work because if you think about this move when we do it in two steps. But actually, this is one movement. So this, in effect, is this. So what I need to do is keep the hips engaged through the movement. Otherwise, what happens is this. I get this, I engage the hip, and then I release the hip, and then I push the hip back in. But if you think about it in terms of efficient move, I don't need to disengage the hip to do the movement. So think about, in this case, the hip engages fully. And then from here, I just engage the hip in straight away. So if I can make it really, really clear, I've got the difference between this and something that's much more, and then don't slide on the floor like this. But you've got the feeling like the hip, and then like this way. So the hip doesn't basically release from the engagement. That's it. And this is crucial later for a wase partner work because I need to be in this movement engaged. And straight into it. As soon as I got the opening, I need to take it. It's a very short movement, but that's it. Good. Now, this this is really important, the flexibility in the hip. So this is where all this kind of flexibility work comes in for the hip. Just watch this now. So I can engage the hip in tension, and then as I pass it through, this happens. So the hip basically just does a burr, and it moves as a block forward into the next position. But if you think about it, I need to change the hip to get to the next position, or to get to the ski. This is why this is interesting. I need to adjust the hip this way. So again, it's a very small movement, but it's the difference between this position with the hips and this position with the hips, which probably looks the same on the camera, but it's like this, hips like this, and then this, hips like this way. So what you're going to do is again, this is where it gets tricky, and the flexibility really matters, because I really need the hips to be fully engaged, but also flexible, like this. So you basically need to change the hip. So just focus on the change in the hip, whilst keeping the hips kind of engaged forward this way. And you've basically got that there. So some things, if I'm exaggerating, some things happening in the hip. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that. Change. My ability to ground that movement will make it even more efficient and later more powerful. That's it. Okay, good. So I'm just going to follow it. We did this kata, I think, maybe yesterday or the day before. In this case, just come back, find this, and then what you can do is draw the whole body to me. So now we're using a big movement, stepping in, slicing to the back. And then from here, release the hip, find the yokome. So in this case, you're going to go into shomen. You go shomenuchi, ski, big slice to the rib. And then from here, big yokome movement. We just come back. So you've got 4 movements. 1, 2, spiral in, 3, and then 4. Way back. Yeah, right. You go around that last yoke. That's it. Slide yoke. That's it. Good. Okay, good. I mean, this one exercise is a bit strange, and I never teach it, so it just kind of came from nowhere. But you see these old videos of Sensei when he's in his later years, and he's doing these kind of Joe kata movements, kind of misogi kind of, and he would use them as like ritual purification for the new dojos or something like this. So what you see a lot of the time, he's doing these kind of movements, and he's usually kind of stabbing up and all these kind of things. These are movements from kabuki theater and this kind of stuff. There's a big history to them. But what you can see they do is really train the center. And you can see the important thing when you watch these videos to watch is his center, because you can see a really stable center and everything kind of whirling around it. So the Joe's like whirling around a really stable, heavy center. So just play a little bit with this. It's a bit strange, but you've got this kind of movement. You want to really kind of engage the center. Again, it's very similar to these kind of movements. I'm in this, and then I want to feel that the sword's going to start to move. So if I watch the tip of the sword, I want to feel like it's moving, like that. Now, the key is that I'm not doing it with the hands like this. So I can do this, but I want to feel that the sword's anchored into the lower body, and then that. Yeah. So just see if you can pass the movement of the hips into the sword. Yeah. This is. I'll show you what it's not. This is probably easier. So I'll show you what it's not this. And the upper body release. So what I'm not doing in this case is swaying the upper body to do the movement. This is like, this is working the body in a way eccentrically. So I'm getting spun out, but I need to use the body from the center. So you feel, see the upper body is actually relaxed onto the center. Hopefully, maybe not, but that. Yeah, yeah, and just play a little bit. This is easier the closer you are to the center. This is easier. So, and then as I go up, it gets harder, 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 almost impossible. Yeah, and then I lose it. I can't do it. There, and I got the center. Just see if you can find that. Ah, good. It's a little bit like dusting the roof, just dusting the ceiling. There's some dust on the fan. I need to dust the fan, but I want to do it in an efficient way. I don't want to kind of dust the fan like this. I want to dust the fan like this. You try this later with a broom like this. Just really efficient because you just like this. And I stay lazy rather than doing like this. Or use a big stick and you relax the body. Exactly. Yeah, like Ken doll. And again, the lower body. So even though it looks like a sword technique, feel that that's actually the lower body. So it's actually engaging the lower body, sinking down. And if you can imagine, you could do this in water. So if you imagine the water's up to the hips, the hips are really kind of sunk down. And this is really something to play with. So what I want to do now is take it into a spiral. So you see our sensei do this a lot in his videos. He's doing it with a yoga. You want this. Really feel that you can catch the spiral into the body. I'm really exaggerated. And then really you can pass it out to the back. This way. And you're going to engage the hips in the motion. So you might find it easier. Just play with the feet. You can be in this kind of position. But just feel again the same thing. Engage the hips. And then just think about that spiral now. Then gather the spiral, wind up, and boom, release it. So it's kind of feel. It's a bit like how these power balls work. You coil the string around, and you let them kind of, you let it kind of out. Good. And then it just extend it into the second movement. Okay. Gather it. I'm doing it fast, I'm not really doing it, it's just a show. And then continue it. So you're going to now pass that spiral through the slice and then straight back. So now that the spiral goes out, and then it goes back into the body, and back out. So then that spiral is constantly passing through the body. So just so you can kind of access that now. A little bit dynamic. And kind of feel it. Wow. Good. And then the last one to finish, just start from this position. So you're starting now from a kamae. A little bit like we did yesterday, but just kind of move around, walk around a little bit, and feel that kind of spiral central connection is there. It's just that in a way it's kind of quiet. So this kind of connection is there, but in a way it's a bit quiet. But it still has an ability to kind of switch on. So just feel that you can kind of move, and then I want you to do the same combination. The spiral to the back, spiral through. Just find that one. Just do it from now in a kind of state of movement. Try and kind of feel it with a kind of calm. So you move, feel the connection, and just slide. And then just go. It's like, you did a true. There we go. Nice. Nice. It looks totally unrelated, and probably looks like a totally different thing, but the same idea is this. It's got the same kind of feeling as this. And that kind of percussive impact now is replaced with a feeling of a kind of snap out. So that kind of impact into the body is the same as this. And then this movement again, yeah, it's got the same kind of quality. Something kind of passing through the body and out. So just kind of get a feel for this kind of heavy exercise. Heavy exercise, direct. And the same feeling here. So this. And then this kind of feeling. So just basically in this case, just condense the movement out the last 30 seconds or so. Just condense the movement, the slides, and just feel that you just very direct that, and then you release it that way and out. Just kind of make it very, very condensed. All that connection will be still really, really active, but it's very nice. It's very much smaller now. It's almost like you're doing it on the spot. For me, this movement just totally feels like an Ikkyo. So it's like this, and then this kind of movement coming in, and then coming through to it. So in this way, this is a kind of progression that you can work with from the Ikkyo, all these kind of things. And then basically the Ikkyo in itself will just be pretty short, pretty sharp, and basically condensed on the spot. So this is kind of natural progression. And the key with for me, the taijutsu, or when I kind of feel like I'm in and really working the taijutsu in a way that's helpful for me, is when I can really feel the sword in the taijutsu movement. So the moment I feel like I'm doing empty handwork on its own, I lose my interest because I'm actually a weapons person. So what I want to feel all the time is like, how does the sword relate to that kind of movement? And then you can kind of, for me, this is how I find the feeling in the taijutsu, because it's a kind of strange, taijutsu is a kind of strange thing for me. So this is kind of helpful work. Get the weapon embedded in there. Taijutsu work. Okay. Hey, domo. Arigato. Good.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.